2008 is when she was murdered, and in 2007 she, just before she graduated FSU, and she also had a major in criminal justice as well as psychology. They stopped her because she had been driving 8 miles over the speed limit. She went to FSU, Florida State University, and they arrested her because they found 25 grams of pot, which is less than an ounce, and the law is if you have over 20 grams, I believe it's a felony. And she went into drug court, and she was to graduate it in April of 2008. And when she graduated and was ready to come home in August, her lawyer told us, he called us 2 days before she was supposed to move home, that she had to stay in Tallahassee to be able to get her record expunged, which is what we wanted because she was going to go on for her master's degree in counseling and work towards becoming a psychologist and work with kids. And that never got to happen because they raided her apartment, and apparently she was getting pot for her and her friends. And they found 5 ounces, which is less than what this cup would hold. And her father and I were unaware of any of this going on. And when they raided her apartment, the officer said, "We can make all this go away if you work for us." And she said okay, because she did not want to shame her family. The problem with, I want to digress and give you my opinion about it, but after that, she called me, and I had just come back from Passover, and she was supposed to come with me, but she was in home at a funeral, and she missed a urine test, and they threw her in jail that weekend, which was a month before they raided her apartment. And I think it was like to scare her so that later down the road, before her probation was complete, they could do something like this.
Well, part of what really stood out about Rachel's case is that, here she was, this young woman found with some pot, and I believe a small handful of ecstasy pills. And she was sent off ultimately to buy 1,500 ecstasy pills, a stash of cocaine, and a handgun from 2 convicted felons. Ultimately, in the midst of the sting, the police lost track of her. As often happens in these situations, she was told to go to a second location. And when she did that, ultimately, one of the men found the surveillance wires that the police had hidden in her purse, and shot her.
In her purse?
Exactly. They were hidden in her purse, which some police would argue was sort of against the conventional protocols of the safest place to put the wires. But they opened the purse essentially to stage a robbery, to steal the money in the purse, and then she was killed.
And Sarah Stillman, how different is Rachel Hoffman from the typical confidential informant whom you profile in your New Yorker piece?
I think demographically she may not be the most representative insofar as, many of the people who find themselves in these very vulnerable situations do not necessarily kind of have a college education, do not necessarily have, parents who are looking out for them, who also, afterwards really stand up and speak out, as Margie and Irv Hoffman have done, really getting out there to really fight for reforms, to say, we've heard so many stories from people around the country who have faced really similar things without protection, young people, sometimes teenagers, sometimes people as young as 15 years old, going out there into these very dangerous situations, and ultimately, kind of, Rachel's parents have really fought for legislation to try to change this in Florida, and hopefully at some point around the country.